Welcome to another video, Purple Political Talk here, and today we're going to be talking about the Trump silent majority and all of that debacle. So, this is a topic where a lot of people have been discussing it, whether it does not exist, and usually the biggest arguments that you have is that it does exist from the part of, a lot of Trump supporters and most Republicans, and for the Democrats, and a lot of them, they say it doesn't exist. So, I'm going to throw my hat into the ring with my unbiased point of view, and I have a clear mind. I do not have any political affiliations at this time, and I'm going to tell you guys what I think and my analysis of the Trump silent majority scenario with a really open mind. So, before I get started, please remember to like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications to get notified when I post my next video. So, let's get started. What is the simple answer to this? Yes. There is at least a group of silent voters. So, by a group, I mean it's not a huge. It doesn't necessarily have to be a majority, but silent voters do exist. Those are people that are very reserved, that they don't like to talk about their political views in public, and they don't show all their support. They don't have yard signs and all these different things. And of course, they don't only exist for Trump, because they also do exist for Biden. So, I'm going to give you guys a quick definition of my take on what is a silent voter. So, for me, in my eyes, a silent voter is essentially any voter that, one, like I said, doesn't support the person in public too much. Two, they say they support the other person when they go in the ballot box, they do something completely different. Or three, it really does depend. I mean, whether independent. So it's pretty much those two big things. They don't support them in public. So, like I said, they do exist to a certain extent, not a majority. We're going to be able to see if it comes down to a majority later on election day. But, I mean, right now, there's many states that we know that could be impacted by silent voters. In my opinion, the states that are most at risk for the Democrats, if Donald Trump actually does have a silent majority, quote-unquote, would be states like Florida and states like Arizona. And I think even states like Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, just because we do not know how they're going to vote. So I'm going to talk about why these states are a little bit risky right now for the Democrats, especially if Donald Trump does have a silent majority. I will make a video pertaining to Biden's silent majority case later on at a later time, but I'm talking about Trump's today. So, like I said, it's pretty much the Rust Belt, Florida, and Arizona. Why are these states in these different places? So, first of all, Florida, Biden has a considerable lead. He has, in polling data, some of the biggest leads we've seen in modern political history in Florida. The current polling numbers that he does have are beating the largest win in Florida since 2000, with the 4% victory by George Bush 43. And essentially, what do I think is going on here? One, I think Donald Trump does have a lot of support here. And I know silent support, he does have a lot. There is a lot of the supporters who are excited about voting for Trump and things like that. But there's others that keep quiet and they don't talk about it as much. And guys, I think you guys have to understand this. There is many people who do not support Trump openly in fear of retaliation. And that is a state, I think, that since it's so heated politically, that some people are not proud of supporting Donald Trump. However, I mean, I think in Florida, the chances of there being silent voters are pretty high. However, I don't know if it's a majority or not, but that is a state to watch out for in the Trump campaign. This could essentially be our electoral map, but I would say in a best case scenario, I would say that a best case scenario for Trump includes having a silent majority, like he does say. Another state, Arizona. For the most part, I think this state has actually been trending a lot more Democratic. However, if there is a group or a considerable chunk of silent Trump voters, we don't really know. I think this is one of the most unlikely states, just because of recent polling data actually has shown the state pretty close. And I think, if anything, Arizona to be more of a surprising victory for Trump than Biden. Biden's expected to carry his state. However, I think the most of the silent Trump voters could exist, if they do exist, in the state of Arizona on the southern border, and that's where he's going to gain his support from border security and things like that. A lot of people, especially down in the border of Arizona with Mexico, a lot of people are supporting, which I mean could be in part of his support, and also maybe the Phoenix area. Who really knows? All I will say is that we do not have a clear way of saying how big of an impact it will be if it does exist. But again, every single election you have silent voters on both sides of the aisle. And I mean, you could say 2016 partially was because of silent voters. If you look at polling data, of course, both candidates overperformed their polling numbers because the pollsters were expecting the third-party vote to be quite high. However, I mean, 2016, essentially, I mean, Donald Trump still did outperform the polling numbers net. I mean, after you balance in the number of voters that would have voted third party and they didn't, and just a net gain compared to Hillary Clinton, who compared to Trump, she net did not gain anything. So I mean, that's something interesting to see, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. When it comes to the Rust Belt, I mean, that's another area. I think 10,000 votes is a very slim margin. That's like 0.5% in some states, which shouldn't be that encouraging for Trump. Because, I mean, just losing 10,000 voters, it's pretty easy. That's pretty much, in some counties, that's just 1% in the larger counties. Which, again, for Trump, it would be very bad if he does, because then he would lose Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. However, I mean, I think the margins are going to be maybe a lot tighter than a lot of people expect. I mean, I've seen some recent pollings that have Biden ahead by 13, 14, 12, 11, 10% in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. I personally feel like it's going to be more, where some polls actually put them more like the 4, 3, 5% range, which is something that, I mean, in a Trump silent majority scenario, very likely. And where are we going to see the silent majority for Trump if it does exist? Well, essentially it would be in the more rural parts of Wisconsin, more of the Grand Rapids part of Michigan, and West Pennsylvania. Those are the areas that are going to be impacted the most. So now we're going to look at a poll from North Carolina, and I'm going to explain to you guys, I'm going to use this poll to model what I think like the general impacts of a silent majority could be, at least a little bit of an estimate. So here we have our RCP page for the state of North Carolina with the recent polls, and essentially what we're going to look at is, so let's use, for example, this recent poll where Biden was leading. It was a sit fast and Harper poll, and it had 600 likely voters. That doesn't really matter. But so in this poll, we had 45% going for Biden, 44% going for Trump. Usually, I mean, the best way to measure this is add them up and see how many people have not chosen a candidate. So this is 89%. So there's an 11% of other where voters indicated other. So I mean, that essentially could be all the other column going to Trump, which would be kind of the best case scenario, I guess, for Trump and his quote-unquote silent majority. And I think if that was the case, then the silent majority as a majority does exist. Now, let's say it's just half. It still could be a silent majority, but I think it would be more of a silent big group of voters. But I think usually the best way to tell how many voters additionally Trump may get might be with a margin of error. I think usually, if it's in the margin of error, it's not as big as a surprise. However, you must consider that, I mean, in 2016, there was like one or two states where the polls were outside the margin of error, which, I mean, there's no really good way to tell how big the impact will be. I would just average it out at maybe 2 to 3 points in certain states, could be as much as 4 and 5 points in other states. I honestly feel like a state like Florida, where Biden is currently leading by, who knows, 5, 6, 7, he has some polls leading by 13, that's a state where Trump does pretty well usually. So I would be surprised if he loses there, and that's where the Trump silent majority comes in. Now, I mean, at the end of the day, does it exist? I think majority, maybe not, but group of voters, definitely. And I know for a fact that a lot of voters are just scared to say who they're voting for in fear of retaliation. Again, since politics, like I said earlier, has become so heated, I mean, people lose their jobs over who they support, people get robbed, and they get harassed because of who they support, which again, that kind of seems that America's political system has gone too far on both sides of the aisle, whether it be the Republicans or the Democrats. So, I mean, I think at this point in time, this is the current electoral map that we could see. In a regular scenario, right, as of right now, I mean, things are changing, and especially as we're seeing some of the latest effects with the Kamala Harris and all of that big anti-that movement. Because I mean, remember that Kamala Harris, we have some recent polls up. CNN came out with a poll that after Biden picked Kamala, support has actually gone down, which must be not so great for him and his campaign. However, things can change, and I think honestly at this point in time, Donald Trump could be able to win, and for the most part, I would say it would go all the victory. And why they won, probably because of the silent voters who did not say that they were going to vote for him. And that's why I mean a lot of people say polls are wrong, because again, they don't factor everyone in America. And remember, they realistically, it's very hard to tell. There's like more than 100 million voters, and they only poll 1,000. So it's going to be hard to tell in the future. However, I mean, I'm not getting into the poll dilemma right now, but that was my take on Trump's silent voters, and I want to see what you guys think. And yeah, so I mean, go down to the comments. Let's discuss this in the chat if you're right now in the premiere, and we're gonna see what ends up happening on election day. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. So please give it a huge thumbs up, like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications to get notified when I post my next video. So guys, I want to thank all of you for watching, and we're also really close to hitting 500 subscribers. I hope to do that sometime in the near, in this week, and that would be great. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and goodbye.